Good evening to those who are watching now and those who will catch us later. I'm Coach Connie. I assist Black and Brown parents who are struggling with stress and family discord and support them on their shift or journey to parental peace. I hope you all had an amazing day. It's a little gray here on the East Coast, but glad that today is Thursday. Today, I wanted to take a few moments to discuss sibling rivalry. If you are a parent and you have more than one child, this is probably something that you have experienced, if not as a constant, maybe episodically, maybe every once in a while, maybe during a significant time period in your family's journey. So, sibling rivalry is when two siblings, two children who are brother and sister, brother and brother. And although it's sibling rivalry, this rivalry can actually occur in any relationship dynamic. But sibling rivalry is when siblings compete for the attention, affection, recognition, or even sometimes resources of their parents or guardians. So, for example, in certain households, you have two children. One person can be extremely outgoing and life of the party, the other one could be a little bit more laid back. Sometimes the laid back child may feel like he or she has to compete for their parents' attention because the more outgoing, gregarious child just naturally receives the lion's share of attention because they are outgoing. They could actually feel like they have to compete for their parents' affection. Now, that may be true, it may not be true. Sometimes our children feel things just because it's what they are experiencing. It doesn't mean that it's what you intended. And so that's definitely something that a good coach helps you to work through, right? Intentions versus impact, they are not the same. You can intend to have one whole dynamic with your children or with your child, and it doesn't land the way you think it's going to land. And somehow, when your child is 25, 26, they're coming to you and saying the childhood that you thought was normal or a-okay, they were miserable, right? So again, with sibling rivalry, you have brothers, sister, brother, and sister who one or both of them feel as if they have to compete for the attention or affection from their parents. Now, sibling rivalry can be mild, where could be over, who gets to select the type of pizza you're going to have on Friday nights more. Oh, you always let him pick the pizza choice. I want to pick the pizza choice sometimes too, right? It could be mild or it could be serious. Sibling rivalry can be mild and just, have bickering. But if the sibling rivalry is not managed, it can become more serious and it can lead to stress in the household. And sometimes it can lead to damaged relationships between siblings or ultimately between a child and their parent out of resentment from what they feel was a lack of attention, affection, or resources. If you are a television watcher and you like dramas, This Is Us really gives us a good example of sibling rivalry. If you are familiar with the story, and I guess I should say slight spoiler alert. Um, if you're familiar with the story, then you know it is the story of the Pearson family. And the Pearson family is made up of a husband and wife and triplets, right? But these triplets are not the triplets that are biological triplets. What these triplets are actually a set of twins and an adopted child. But triplets, because they were all born on the same day and they were, brought home from the hospital at the, same time. And the person who's not the biological child of the parents was adopted by the parents. So it's triplets, brothers and sisters. And so you have mild cases of sibling rivalry where, for example, the daughter, Kate, sometimes feel like she's in the shadow of her brothers because Kate, and I won't give you detailed details because you may have not have seen an episode and maybe you're looking forward to it. So I won't spoil, but suffice it to say, Kate has a milder form of sibling rivalry, not because she competes with her brothers so much, but in her more of her competition is actually goes in another direction, which I won't talk about because I want you to watch the show. But her sibling rivalry with her two brothers, it does exist at times, but more like a flare up, and then it goes back. But then when you look at the rivalry that exists between the two brothers, it is a lot more serious and has led to a lot more stress in the family dynamic. You have one brother who is kind of like the all-American son, football player, tall, athletic, handsome. And then you have the other son who is handsome, but I guess what would be classified as growing up as like a nerd. He's very bookish. He's very anxious, and he has the distinction of being an adopted child. And so, in that dynamic, the biological son tends to see that his sister and his brother, so the All American sees his sister and his adopted brother as commandeering the lion's share of his parents' attention, affection. So this impacts how he feels. And sometimes he has on again, off again, relationships with his brothers, his brother and his sister, or his twins. And sometimes it has caused him to make unhealthy choices in his life. So again, sibling rivalry can be of the mild variety, or it could grow into something very serious. And it can grow into something serious if parents do not manage the rivalry, right? It's not to say that sibling rivalry won't exist, but it's how you address it. It's how you support your children through it. So if you are a parent and you are experiencing sibling rivalry with your children, some things that you can do in order to, if not diffuse it totally, make sure that even though it exists, that your children, all of them, feel that this is a temporary disagreements or temporary stressor, but ultimately they love you, you love them, and they love their brothers and sisters. So you have to promote communication, right? You have to call the thing the thing. You have to put it out there. So that doesn't mean you have to sit around a table and have Friday night meetings where you ground it into the dust. However, you have one-off conversations with each of your children and say, I really love how so and so plays Uno. However, I love how you play the guitar. I love you both for different reasons, but ultimately, I love you because you're mine, right? So having that communication, letting your children know that they're not crazy. It's nothing wrong with what they're thinking. There could be something there. There could be a little bit of competition there. There could be a little bit of stress there over what they observe as different treatment. So you don't try to poo-poo your child and say, well, You're wrong. That's not happening. Because just because they're children, it doesn't mean that they don't have a right to feel how they feel. So we don't invalidate their feelings. We can validate their feelings and we can help them work through their feelings. And we can, as the adults, make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep the rivalry at a minimum, make sure that all children feel like they're being treated the same, right? Another thing you could do is to foster an inclusive environment. So when you see some sibling rivalry going on, you pull the person in. You let them know in this family, we stay together. We will work it out. It is okay. You can have your moment, but you're gonna come back and play cards together, right? Inclusivity, making sure that all your children feel wanted and welcome, or like Coach Connie likes to say, making sure all your children feel seen, supported, and safe, right? Each of them needs to feel that. So, promoting an inclusive environment, not letting one of your children go off and be by themselves without you checking in, right? That's not to say that the children cannot have private time and alone time. They absolutely can. But make sure that you balance their private time and alone time with family time, with inclusive time, inclusive of you, not just telling them to go play, right? Because if there is rivalry, it definitely has to be monitored and worked on by the adults, right? And finally, making sure that there are boundaries set by you, the parent, right? It's one thing to feel a little bit of jealousy and tension. It's another thing to get into physical altercations because of those feelings, um, verbally abuse a sibling because of those feelings, right? There's how you feel and what you perceive, and then how you act on what you observe and what you perceive, right? So as the parent, you have to set boundaries around the expectations, behaviors in your household. So again, it's not to dismiss the feelings. It's to set boundaries around how your child reacts, responds, and engages based on how they're feeling. So again, sibling rivalry is something that is very common. However, much like everything else that we will be talking about on parenthood, while it is common, you do not have to deal with it by yourself. Sibling rivalry is something that impacts probably 99.9% of the families around the world. It's very common, but again, it could be a lesser variety, it could be less stressful, and then it could also be more serious, where it seriously impacts the relationships of siblings. It is our job as parents to make sure that the latter is not the case. If you need any support in helping your children to navigate sibling rivalry, please feel free, go to my homepage, click on a link, book a connection. I would love to help you navigate the sibling rivalry that you may be experiencing in your household. Again, as the queen of tweens and teens, I have seen it. I have seen it in my 3 decades of working with children and families. I've definitely seen sibling rivalry, and you can work through it, but you have to be intentional in doing so. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you on the next live. And if you are watching the replay, thank you for that as well. Take care and have a good night.